something big out of it. I said, I told her to say, hey, I got the call from this person because now she knows him because we've just attended the party there. This is what he is saying, but I didn't take it as something serious. Only to be surprised on the following day that Tau really was granted bail. Then it kind of changed the whole situation.
When you say it changed the whole situation, what are you referring to?
It confirmed what Ndlala had said to me on the first. And then it also confirmed what he used to be saying, like along to say this person is connected to the Mlife, who is connected to the cartels. And then it confirmed to say, when he said they will pay their way out, or if that doesn't happen, they will kill the investigating team. Then I could see that one of what he said, one thing of the three things that he said will happen has just happened. So now it meant we needed to run fast to stop them doing maybe the second or the third step on the things that he said would happen.
Now,
and then I called him again. I called him again on WhatsApp call. And then as I called him, he said, when he answered the call, he said, yes, I told you. The problem is when I tell you things you do not want to understand. And it was just early, before even our office knew that the Tau has been granted bail. Then he said, I told you, the problem you do not want to listen to me when I tell you things. Then I asked him, how did you know? Then he told me that he was called by General Shibiri, who told him that, hey, Tau had just been released in Vereeniging on bail of 10,000. Now, my suspicions that I had that were not confirmed were coming to reality now to say, hey, what I was suspecting with the parties going to his office, could it be that he knows something that we don't know?
What?
And then,
Witness?
Yes, Commissioner.
Yes. What did you understand him, or what did he mean when he said, he also said that I did not want to listen to him when he tells me about such things? What does that mean? You discuss with him ordinarily and his place in your work?
He will tell me a lot of things about this case. Amongst the things that he will tell me is to say, hey, recuse yourself from this investigation because it is dangerous. The people that are behind this case are actually dangerous. You will get yourself killed. Then I will take it as if just someone who just want to intimidate you. Then I'll say, hey, it always happens. And then he will go on and say, the person that you're working with, who's now witness B, is not telling you that she has already received money in order for her to release Tau or not to oppose bail for Tau. Then I told him that is impossible, it's not going to happen. So in a nutshell, those are the things that he was telling me. But the 2nd of August, it means that we needed to work very fast to alert our commanders at the very highest level of what has happened and what was coming along, because most of the things, it was just between me and witness B and maybe a few other people, but not reported directly to the senior officers. But on that day, we thought that we actually need to report this and lay the foundation as we were coming from the first appearance to this day, so that the senior officers can take a decision from there. But other than that, we were feeling scared. We were feeling really, really scared. To such that I requested to be provided with security from that day, to be taken to the place where the meeting was going to be.
And we'll pause for the moment at the Madlanga Commission. We will get right back there right after this.
Mr. Govender, congrats on the retirement. You just sold your car to We Buy Cars. Tell us about it.
Yes, it just gathered dust in the garage, so I exchanged it for cold hard cash. Now my wife and I can enjoy a stress-free retirement.
Retiring the car as you retire. Nice. So why We Buy Cars?
It was so quick. They came over to our house to do the evaluation, and we sold it the same day. Tops, man.
Okay, so now you got even more time on your hands, eh?
Exactly.
We Buy Cars. Geared for your next chapter. Geared for you.
Are you a small business owner? Do you truly believe in your dream, but sometimes feel like the odds are stacked against you? Sanlam Corporate and Santam believe in you and in the power of SMMEs to grow South Africa's future. That's why they're hosting the 2025 Sanlam SMME Collective event on 21 October from 9 to 4 p.m. at the Sandton Convention Center. It's an invite-only event. To request an invite, visit sanlamonline.co.za/campaigns/SMME Collective and stand a chance to join the pitch parade, where entrepreneurs like you can present your pitch in person and get real-time expert feedback. Network, learn and be inspired. From funding and risk to AI and new markets, let's unlock growth and shape your future together. Stay tuned to SAFM for more. SAFM will be hosting its annual Breast Cancer Awareness Roundtable on the Full Circle with Bridget Masinga on Thursday, the 30th of October 2025 at the Indaba Hotel, Spa and Conference Center in Four Ways, Johannesburg. If you want to be part of the audience, email your name and surname to events@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, let's go straight back to the Madlanga Commission. And all day you've been hearing witness A testifying partially in camera.
Give a reason because their withdrawal was not a kind of a formal withdrawal to sit down around the table to say, because of reason 1, 2, and 3, I'm deciding to withdraw myself.
May I ask this direct question? From the testimony of General Mkhwanazi, the distinct impression we were given is that investigators withdrew because of the threats that were brought to bear upon all the investigators. Would that be, which I believe was part of what led to 10 members of the PKTT being brought to Gauteng. Is that factually correct or not?
That will be correct, commissioners. But what I was saying is that there was no formal withdrawal to sit around the table to say, for reason number 1 or 2, I'm withdrawing myself. But I think the pressure that the team was facing could have amounted to them to withdraw themselves.
Thank you, Chair. You were still on the issue of Tau's bail, and we are at paragraph 65 on page 21. Could you just read that into the record? And while you're doing that, we will display WA3, which is on page 56 and 57. It is redacted. The display will be redacted. But if I could ask you to look at your hard copy after you've read this into the record.
Yes, Commissioners, I've got my hard copy. It will be page 56 and 57. Am I
Yes.
correct, Commissioner?
Yes. Can you tell us what it is that we're looking at without mentioning the name of the person who's sending this message?
Yes.
You may proceed.
I'm just preparing to read them out.
Okay, we're looking specifically at the one on the 15th of July 2024.
Yes.
It says chat 1. Do you have it
Check
with you?
one. Yes, I have it with me. Can I just please switch on the light because it is quite dark where I am?
I'm asking you not to look at the one that's on the screen because it's redacted and you won't see some of the information.
I think he says it's dark.
Yes, I want to read
He
from
wants
the
the
hard
light.
copy, but I just need to switch on the light of the place where I am.
Please
that
do
I
so.
can see clearly.
Okay?
Yes, Commissioners.
Witness A, if I can ask you to first read paragraph 65 of your statement into the record, and then we will go to the WhatsApp chat on page 56. So first read 65.
Yes, the paragraph 65 goes as follows. It says, our investigation also revealed that in a WhatsApp chat on the 14th of July 2024, someone sent a message to Mulife saying, appearance for bail application today. Next court appearance, bail will be granted for him. Tao's next appearance was indeed on the 2nd of August 2024, and he was granted bail. On that day, Mulife sent a message to that person saying bail granted with emojis. The next extract from this chat is attached as the paper that I'm having here.
Okay, so then if we can then go to page 56, which is WA3. Do you know
Yes.
where this chat came from whose phone this chat came from?
Yes, it came from the downloads of Mr. Mulife's phone.
Sorry, you say the downloads from Mr. Mulefe's phone.
Yes.
When was his phone obtained?
His phone was obtained during his arrest on the 6th of December 2024.
Thank you. Can we then go back to your statement at
Yes,
paragraph
Commissioner.
66? Can you tell us what
Yes.
happened?
Before you go to 66, these exchanges between you and, you say, Mr. Ndlala, where in advance he tells you what the plan is, and you describe this in paragraph 63. You say there was a clear plan what would happen regarding the bail. First, he would be granted bail. Secondly, if he was not granted bail, he would escape from custody. Thirdly, if 1 and 2 failed, the investigating officers would be eliminated. And then you say it was at this point where I was advised to leave the investigation. And then you, again in the next paragraph, say you called him back, where you say I called the person, in paragraph 64, in the third line, you say I called the person who informed me that Tau, that is Mr. Ndlala. You called Mr. Ndlala.
That's correct.
All right, and then that Tau would be granted bail. Before I could tell him what happened, he laughed and said he told me this would happen. He also said that I didn't want to listen to him when he tells me about such things. He said this in a boastful way. Without disclosing anything that might be sensitive about Mr. Ndlala and your engagements with him, did you consider why would he know this kind of detail? That there was a plan, and he details it in the way that I have set it out, and that Mr. Tau would be released, and in fact, Mr. Tau does get released.
That's correct. That was one of my concerns, to the extent that I did ask him as to how did he came about to know that he had just been released, because it was a new information. So now I thought he knew more than I knew about the case that I was investigating, meaning that he had a connection somewhere with the people that were involved in the case. That was my understanding of the situation at the time.
Yes. He's not an employee. Mr. Ndlala, you say categorically he's not an employee of the SAPS.
He's not an employee of the SAPS, as far as I will understand.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Sigurd.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloyi. Witness A, we were at page 21, paragraph 66 of your statement, where you were dealing with the aftermath of Mr. Tau's bail application succeeding and him being released on bail.
Yes. Then we had a long meeting on the 2nd, that now we took a decision that we need to take steps to report these things to the general, who is now General Kumano, who is the head of detectives in the province, through Brigadier Khopane, who is our immediate commander at our office. And then this was now on a Saturday, and my leave was starting. I was supposed to have gone somewhere for leave, but I thought I cannot leave until I see that we are getting help on this. And then now we started to be engaged in what I call as a runaround. We were driving around out there trying to figure out what it is that we're going to do, because it was not safe to drive to our places. It was not safe.
Okay, we'll pause for that and get back again to the Commission as soon as we can. Slightly delayed news headlines. Here's Kolofelo Tefu.
Are you a small business owner? Do you truly believe in your dream, but sometimes feel like the odds are stacked against you? Sanlam Corporate and Santam believe in you and in the power of SMMEs to grow South Africa's future. That's why they're hosting the 2025 Sanlam SMME Collective event on 21 October from 9 to 4 p.m. at the Sandton Convention Center. It's an invite-only event. To request an invite, visit sanlamonline.co.za/campaigns/SMME Collective and stand a chance to join the pitch parade, where entrepreneurs like you can present your pitch in person and get real-time expert feedback. Network, learn and be inspired. From funding and risk to AI and new markets, let's unlock growth and shape your future together. Stay tuned to SAFM for more.
I'm Reverend Musa Zondi, the MEC for Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs in KwaZulu-Natal. From the 22nd to the 24th of October 2025, we will be meeting with government leaders, economists, industrialists and investors at the KwaZulu-Natal Investment Conference to be held at the Inkosi Albert Luthuli ICC in Durban. This conference, organized by one of the department's public entities, Trade and Investment KwaZulu-Natal, will be officially opened by the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, the Honorable Thamsanqa Ntuli, who will elaborate on unique investment opportunities in sectors such as manufacturing, the oceans economy, tourism and many others that make our province a preferred destination for investment and industrial growth. For more information about this conference, please visit www.tikzn.co.za or follow Trade and Investment KwaZulu-Natal on social media platforms.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, let's get straight back to the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry.
We haven't received any results. And then she took it up to herself to write it to our commanders and give them the background of the situation that we're facing and requesting them to see to it that we are provided with security, not only for us, but also of the docket that we carry.
Why was it important to provide security for the docket as well?
It is because that now we thought that if they do not find us, they will want to find the docket. Once they find the docket, then you will have a problem because now you won't be having the docket, like the physical docket, it will be gone. That was just our thought. It's not that we knew that this is what was going to happen. To the extent that this docket was not kept where we will keep our docket at the office in our still locked cabinets. We were driving around with it wherever we were going, which was posing another danger to us.
Did you or witness B ever get hold of General Mbuso Khumalo?
It is General Mbuso Khumalo who came back to us after, I believe, having received the communication from the member that assisted us to get through to him.
So you spoke to the general?
The general phoned me.
And what did he say?
I spoke to him. And then he told me that he has heard what has happened. And then he told me that he would want to see us very soon. so that we can discuss a way forward. And then I told him that I was on leave, but I was willing to withdraw my leave and come to work. Then he said, no, there won't be a need. As long I am safe wherever I was, he will be communicating or making any arrangements that will be made with witness B until I come back from leave. And then as soon as I came back from leave, we went to General's office, and then he addressed us, he asked us some questions, and then he told us that he's going to assist wherever he can. And then he just gave us the layout, what his wish and what he thinks should happen to this investigation.
Okay, can I just take you a step back while you were still on leave at paragraph 69 on page 22? You speak about an event that
Yes.
occurred on the 8th of August. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. On the 8th of August, I would have been on leave, because I think I came back on leave on the 16th, if I'm correct. And then I was informed by witness B that the TRA has been conducted, the threat risk assessment had been conducted, and it was classified as high risk, which in other words meant that our lives were extremely in danger.
And who conducted
And then
that TRA?
Sorry, I didn't get that, Commissioners.
Who conducted that TRA?
It was Colonel Ntuli from Crime Intelligence.
Okay, proceed.
Yes, then when I came back, we started doing our investigation. Then we will be meeting with the officers that were assessing our risk, getting information from us, asking us how we're feeling. That is what we were told. But I would believe that they were also checking the places that we were staying at, even though I didn't know that. But there were background checks that were done on us, I believe.
Okay. And then at paragraph 70, you speak about an incident.
May I, before you go to 70? Witness A, you say in paragraph 67 that you could not, the language you use is you say we could not speak to General Shibiri, and so we thought that we should try to get hold of Major General Mbuso Khumalo. Why could you not speak? Why did you decide that you could not speak to General Shibiri?
We had already been advised, commissioners, to say we must not discuss this case with him, if I may say that. And then also the confusion that happened with the parties and us called to his office, we at this time, up until today, we hadn't figured out if it was him assisting us or if it was him trying to get information from the docket and everything. So it was safe to deal with the people that we trusted at the time.
So the reason you decided not to speak to him, it was a trust issue. You didn't think you could trust him.
I will put it in that way, commissioners.
Yes. Ordinarily, if there were no trust issues and you were dealing with this problem that you find yourselves in, and you can't get hold of your immediate superior, I think Brigadier Hopane, ordinarily who would you speak to? Would it have been Shibiri, General Shibiri?
No, it would have been General Mbuso Khumalo because he's at the provisional level, and then General Shibiri is at the national level. So I will exhaust the means of trying to get hold of General Khumalo at the provincial level. And then going to national level will be extreme
Yes. So in terms of hierarchy, the right person, if you couldn't find Brigadier Hopane, you're saying General Khumalo, Mbuso Khumalo would have been the next person that you speak to if you followed the hierarchy.
That's correct, Commissioner. That will be the next person that you will have to speak to.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Sika.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloyi. Okay, so we are now at paragraph 70 on page 22, where you speak about an incident that occurred in the week of the 12th of August when you returned from leave. Can you just tell us about that?
Yes, now I had already resumed duties. Then we were doing normal investigation on this case. And maybe it should be mentioned that we were doing this case and other cases that we already had at the office. So it will be this case and other cases, depending what investigation you have on other cases. And then we were called to come to the office. And then the information was that there were two officers who were waiting for us or who needed to meet with us at the office. And then we drove to the office, and then we found these two police officers at our office now, at the Organized Crime Office. And then they told us they are from the cold case unit, and then they requested that we give them over the docket of Swart murder.
And
one of these warrant officers was identified to us as Dion Mulaudzi, who works at the cold cases office. And then we refused. We said we cannot, because that's procedurally that was wrong. You can't just give the docket to someone because they're requesting for the docket, let alone that this was the sensitive matter that we're investigating. Even if it was just a normal docket that had no threats and everything, you cannot just say, okay, here's the docket, you're looking for it, have it.
Witness A, the form of request, did they have a letter with them or was it a verbal request?
It was a verbal request.
And who is the head of the cold case unit? Or who was at the time?
I really do not have concrete information. I only heard that the head of the cold case unit will be Brigadier, I just forgot the name. He's Brigadier Keninda, yes, he's heading it, but I have not seen the structure of that unit. I don't know if that is true.
And just for our benefit, what is a cold case in the context of the South African police system?
The cold case is the term given to the cases that one would say they are lying dormant. They have been opened, and then there is no breakthrough for a certain period of time. Then they will be referred to as a cold case, which will then mean that they need a certain or a different approach from a mainstream approach that maybe the station or any other unit will be giving. Then they are ordinarily transferred or given to the cold case unit. But this one of us, it was a fresh case, and it was not called in a way that the people were already arrested and it was caught going. So it didn't really fit the category of it being investigated in that unit to start with.
So you, as one of the investigators, had not yet formed a view that you've hit a dead end with this case?
No. Actually, the progress on the case was wonderful. We were having leads. We were getting closer to even arresting a fourth suspect. And then we had good linkages to the suspect that we had already arrested. So there is no way that it could have been referred to as a cold case at that stage.
Thank you, Commissioner Kumalo.
Is it witness?
Right, we'll pause once again with the proceedings at the commission, but we'll get back there shortly.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
So, you need to make a note of this. Every big business starts small. We know that, right? But it's the bold ones that keep on growing. So are you bold enough to take the next step? Now, Sanlam Corporate and Santam are calling South Africa's small business champions to the 2025 Sanlam SMME Collective. It happens, well, it's all this coming this week, in fact, 21st of October at the Sandton Convention Centre from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's your chance to grow, connect with experts, explore funding and access to markets, and discover how AI and sustainability can help your business thrive. And remember, growing your business isn't just about profit. It's about the people who move your business forward. Explore Sanlam's easy retirement plan to protect what matters most, your people. SMME Collective seats are limited, so get your request today. Go to the website, which is sanlamonline.coza, sanlamonline.coza/campaigns/SMME Collective.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, and all the way up to 4 o'clock, back to the Madlanga Commission inquiry.
71, you talk about a meeting that occurred on the 20th of August 2024. Can you tell us what happened at that meeting?
Yes, this meeting happened just for us so that we can be able to give the progress of the case to the general, because now the general was taking this case under his wing to say we need to report to him the challenges that we are facing so that he can see where he can assist and give a guidance regarding investigation, and also the challenges that now the personal challenges in terms of the threats that we are having. So this was one meeting of the regular meetings that we're having with the general. Some will be just over the phone if he has time. If he doesn't have time, then if he has time, he will call us to his office to say, brief me, what is happening here? More so because now Tau was out on bail, and then we needed now to be investigating the murder case, and then also putting an eye on him, on his movement.
And you speak about the responsibility for your safety and security of the docket. What transpired there?
Oh, yes, that was solely taken over by General Kumalo. And then he told us that he will see to it that we will get the assistance that we need in terms of safety. And then he introduced us to the people that were going to assist us in terms of protection.
And who was that who was now responsible for your safety and the security of the docket?
We were introduced to General Kekana, who is, I think, the head of the uniform units in Gauteng, to say he will provide you with the members that will be in charge of your safety or your protection while you are doing the docket and while you are off duty. And then at the same time, there was another wing of the police that was going to be working behind the scenes, which I'm not at liberty to talk about their operations because I don't know about them, but they are from counterintelligence. They were doing the TRA, they were doing the background checks, they were seeing the severity of the risk, and then maybe reporting to the generals, I don't know, but they were also part of the operation by then.
You refer in your statement at paragraph 71 to a counterintelligence investigation. Is that what you just mentioned now, or is that something else?
Initially, the counterintelligence came in as far as giving protection and assessing the situation, maybe which then led to the counterintelligence investigation to say the investigation itself, now the overall investigation need to be taken under the counterintelligence. I will talk to that extent. But initially, it was not the counterintelligence doing investigation. It was us doing investigation under their protection up until the time when now we were introduced to their wing of investigation, which included the PKTT, as it is called.
Okay. At paragraph 72, maybe that would be the concluding topic for today. You speak about events of the 5th of September 2024. Can you just tell us what happened on that day?
This one was one of the eventful days because we were not already provided with the units that were going to guard us. So we were visited at home late at night by the unit that needed to guide us and guard us or provide protection to us and our families as we were sleeping. And then it came as a surprise because we were not really noticed or given a notice to say people were going to visit you at night. From my side, I heard by the sirens outside, and then when I opened the window, I saw 5 marked police vehicles with the sirens and blue lights on. And then when I went to them, they told that they were being tasked to come give protection to me overnight. And then in the morning, the other team was going to take over. That one will be the TRT. And then we will be doing investigation, and then the other team that came at night will come change. They were changing shifts.
So was it 24-hour protection?
It was actually the start of a 24-hour protection.
Thank you, Chair. I think this may be a convenient time to adjourn for the day.
Let us adjourn and resume at 9:30 tomorrow.
Okay. So there we are, adjourned for the day and back tomorrow at, just after 9 o'clock, right? And that's been the case with this slightly different procedure today at the Madlanga Commission compared to others because of the witness A now testifying off camera. The rest of the commission, in terms of the members there, we can see them, but the witness is off camera, cannot be seen, but can be heard, right? It just gives me time to tell you, you can pick up on some of the issues we're going to talk about. 086 0002032, your reaction today on what you've heard at the Madlanga Commission, and then WhatsApp 0614 104 107. But that's not all. There is more to talk about. The DA has proposed an economic empowerment bill, meaning a revision of BEE as we know it. And we're going to talk about that with Duma Ngubule just now, pretty shortly, right? There's also an update on the Cradock 4 inquest that's been ongoing. And here's an interesting thought. There's a conversation coming up after 5 o'clock about re-looking at the global definition of apartheid. What does apartheid really mean? And I say that because, as you know, it's very much a made in South Africa term, but it's been used to describe happenings in Namibia as well as in occupied Palestine, and there's been lots of conversations about that. So there's been this conversation about just understanding what does it mean, and whether it requires some changes in terms of its global understanding in relation to human rights. So I'll leave that with you. Every reason for you, by the way, not only to listen in, but to tell your friends to say, hey, come on, catch the National Pulse, hosted by Ashraf Garda. I would love it if you do just that. Right now, let's get the news. It's 4 o'clock.
Thanks, Ashraf. Top stories this hour: Zimbabwe and Malawi to cover costs for crash victims, and Shadrack Sibiya mentioned in Meyiwa murder trial. Good afternoon, I'm Khulufelo Tefo. The governments of Zimbabwe and Malawi have pledged to cover all repatriation and medical expenses for victims of the bus crash that killed 44 people on the N1 near Loitrigat, Limpopo. The office of the Premier has confirmed that the 44th person has succumbed to injuries in hospital. Zimbabwe's diplomat Shepherd Gwenzi and Malawi's High Commissioner to South Africa Stella Ndawu made the announcement during a meeting with Limpopo government officials and affected families. The identification of the deceased is underway. Gwenzi explains.
The government of Zimbabwe will continue to assist the families of both the deceased and the injured with transport and accommodation until the conclusion of the ongoing processes. We are working with the government of South Africa and the High Commission of Malawi to ensure that the requirements enabling the repatriation of the deceased for burial in Zimbabwe and Malawi, respectively, are completed in the shortest time frame possible.
The Madlanga Commission has heard how the head of organized crime, Major General Richard Shibiri, tried interfering in the murder case of Vereniging engineer Aman Swart. Witness A has told the Commission that Shibiri called him and Witness B to tell them that the suspects arrested for Swart's murder were very dangerous people. 3 people were arrested for Swart's murder in April last year, namely veteran police officer Michael Puletau, Musa Kekana and Floyd Mabuse. Witness A says that he and Witness B were concerned when Shibiri tried securing the release of the suspects outside the formal court processes.
We left that meeting feeling very concerned, not only because General Shibiri confirmed our fears that very powerful people were involved in the murder, but also because he had implied that he knew as a fact that there was a bribe ready for us if we were willing. Essentially, our most senior official had just informed us about a bribe in exchange for compromising the investigation in order to secure the accused person's release.
Accused number 1 in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial, Muzi Sibiya, says high-ranking police officers, including suspended Deputy Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya, were present in 2019 during his alleged interrogation about the murder of Meyiwa. Sibiya is under cross-examination at the High Court in Pretoria, where he and 4 others have been charged with the 2014 murder of Meyiwa. Sibiya previously testified that he was apprehended in 2019, assaulted and tortured at Tluakop in connection with the murder, but was not charged. State Prosecutor George Baloyi questioned Sibiya during the trial within a trial.
You are confused regarding the order. It's simply this, that you were not there at Tluakop as you allege.
Umcabango wakhe lo mina eTlantcop ngaya amaphoyisa angishaya isicala kalokuthi ukufaka Senzo Meyiwa mabatshena futhi ukuthi angazi uZungu uMakhubu uSibiya uLishabanga ngaqala ukubabona khona lapha ya so lapha lokho engisho ukuthi kwenzeke lithabongo lokho eTlantcop kwenzeka.
What I'm saying here is to what happened in Tluakop, it indeed happened in 2019.
Who are you referring to as Sibiya?
Ubani lo ukhuluma ngaye uthi uSibiya?
Shadrack
Sibiya.
The Western Cape Education Department says it's working closely with law enforcement and other stakeholders to identify any threats as matriculants sit for their exams this week. The Cape Flats has in particular been hard hit by gang, taxi and alleged extortion-related killings in recent months. Matriculants will sit for computer application technology exams tomorrow, while most will write languages later this week. Provincial Minister in the department, David Menya, says there are contingency plans for each exam venue.
Each of our exam venues has a specific contingency plan for their context. We urge candidates and their parents to keep in touch with their schools so that they can be updated of any concerns that may arise. We appeal to everyone in our province to put the best interests of our candidates first. They are under an enormous amount of pressure and they do not need any additional stress or disruptions.
And finally, further afield, Japan has given regulatory approval for an over-the-counter emergency contraceptive pill. It's the first time the socially conservative country has allowed women to access the medication without a doctor's prescription. The BBC's Benedict Kio has the details.
Campaigners have long criticised the fact that women in Japan have only been able to access the morning after pill with a doctor's prescription and a trip to a clinic or pharmacy, which they argued was a deterrent for rape victims and teenagers. Discussions on making it available without a prescription have gone on for 8 years. There will be no age restrictions on buyers and no requirement for parental consent. However, the pill will be labelled as medicine requiring guidance, meaning women will have to take it in the presence of a pharmacist. The morning after pill is already available without a prescription in more than 90 other countries.
The top story at 4, the governments of Zimbabwe and Malawi have pledged to cover all repatriation and medical expenses for victims of the bus crash that killed 44 people on the N1 near Loitrigat in Limpopo. The office of the Premier has confirmed that the 44th person has succumbed to his injuries in hospital. Headlines at 4:30 for SAFM News. I'm Kolofelo Defo.
In your sports this hour, Proteas rue missed opportunities on day 1 of the second test against Pakistan. Porthen gets first Bok call-up in Castle outgoing tour squad, and Austin signs 8-year contract extension to host US Grand Prix. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg queuing towards Crown Interchange, and the N3 northbound as roadworks reported with lane closures approaching Buccleuch Interchange. In KZN on the N3 westbound, a stationary vehicle before the M13 Paradise Valley exit in Cape Town to Kai Road westbound as where crashes reported at the M3 highway, and the N7 Jakes Harville Drive queuing at the N2 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
SAFM will be hosting its annual Breast Cancer Awareness Roundtable on the Full Circle with Bridget Masinga on Thursday, the 30th of October 2025 at the Indaba Hotel, Spa and Conference Center in Four Ways, Johannesburg. If you want to be part of the audience, email your name and surname to events@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, so normal programming now outside of the Madlanga Commission resumes. We're going to talk about the DA's plans or proposal around revising BE as you would know it. But here's some thoughts from you.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, I'm a very worried South African citizen. Listening to Madlanga Commission today, I'm convinced that South African police services is rotten to the core. I think what needs to be done, all those from the generals up to the brigadiers, all those people need to be investigated and vetted, and we start afresh. Otherwise, this country is going to be in big, big trouble. I'm very worried. Thank you.
Okay, there we are. I'm very worried. Here's another.
Good morning, Ashraf.
You know, listening to the testimony of Witness A today, it gave me a little hope that in South Africa, at least in the South African Force, we still have good public servants. But Ashraf, this is a real state capture that we are listening to. And we just have to pray for General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Ashraf. Hi.
I tell you what, I hear the utter desperation in your voice, and I think it is completely understandable, because you're right. You want these whistleblowers like Mkhwanazi and others to stay alive. There's been others that have not, and we know that. But also, this point about, as has been discussed, not even just police state capture, but police capture. Like, how did we get to this level that we're having this sort of conversation in a democratic South Africa, post an apartheid South Africa? Lots of questions to be asking there. Well, what about questions around BEE, and should it be reformed? Let's talk about that next.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
So the Democratic Alliance effectively are proposing a revision of BEE as we know it. They feel that it's benefited a small group of people, a narrow economic alliance, empowerment, if I can put it that way. And they've therefore proposed an economic empowerment bill that the key part is not just from narrow to broad, but it removes race as a determining factor. So what do they mean? They had a briefing about that today, but let's get reaction from Duma Qubule, who's an economic analyst. Duma, appreciate your time. It's been a while. Hello. Yeah, I'm very good indeed. Right. Yeah. So firstly, what do you understand by the DA's premise in why there's a need effectively for, a revision of BEE as we know it?
The problem is that what the DA was saying at the press conference was totally confusing. They were conflating so many issues as not related to BEE. For example, they said what's happening at the Majanga Commission.
All right, we are struggling to hear you clearly. Let's see if I can put you back to keys and we can sort that one out, because I need to hear you very, very clearly. And while we do that, let's just here's a thought on the Motsepe factor. He was asked whether he'd stand for the president. He said no. Let's see if I can. In fact, if we can just get Patrick to play that out in just a moment. But it just gives me a chance as we think about it. So the DA, and it's an interesting one. I mean, even before the conversation, the DA is saying remove race as a factor for economic empowerment. Here's the comment about Motsepe.
Ashraf, afternoon. It's Kosnat here. Look, my brother, I tend to disagree with Mr. Motsepe when he said ANC is still relevant and the people of South Africa need ANC. ANC is the one who needs people of South Africa the most, because ANC people, they are very corrupt. We don't need them. We need another part now, because even people who need ANC now, they need ANC because of tenders.
All right. Well, look, he's not incorrect in saying it's relevant. I mean, a party that's got 40% of the vote, and no party has got more votes than that, you can't write off its relevance. It is relevant, absolutely. But do they also need us? Yeah, I agree with you as well. So maybe both are right, and you are right as well on that. Right, let's see now if we can connect with Duma. Right, Duma, I've got you there, right? Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, much better, right.
Properly.
So I started asking the question about, are you surprised in terms of this bill that they first argue against, a broad, narrow base, saying that too much of BEE, as we know it, has gone to a narrow group of people, which many people within the ANC have actually acknowledged as well, right? But in terms of their solutions or remedy, they talk about a bill that drops race as the determining factor with regard to BEE. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, first of all, I was really confused. I watched the whole press conference, and they were conflating things that are not related to BEE. They cited that what is happening at the Majanga Commission as evidence that BEE is not working. Can someone make
that makes sense. It doesn't make sense at all. And they talked about the Gupta train contract as proof that BEE does not work. But the Guptas were not black under any law in South Africa. It was plain criminality, had nothing to do with BEE. And there were so many issues that they were talking about jobs, about investment, about the growth of the economy that have got nothing to do with BEE. And the solution that they're proposing is to have a separate scorecard which is aligned to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I was still counting them, Ashraf. It is a far more complicated system than what we have under BEE, and most of the indicators do not make sense from the purpose of a company that is bidding for procurement points. I'll give you an example. End hunger. That is one of the Sustainable Development Goals.
Yeah.
Of what use is that? How is a company going to show that it's done something to end hunger? And there's a whole list of, so this thing is far more complicated. If they're talking about simplifying compliance to make it easier for companies to, participate in state procurement, this is not the way to do it. It is far more complicated than what we have currently. And the minute that companies start grappling with the details of what the DA is proposing, they're going to realize that it makes no sense whatsoever. Yeah.
So you think, look, one is the companies, but of course, in terms of a bill, it's not the companies that decide on a bill. It would actually be Parliament that decides on it, right? Do they therefore, you see, it may not be workable according to you, but do they, however, and it sounds contradictory, do they, however, put through a compelling case as to why it needs revision?
Yeah, no, they don't put, because they're clutching at straws. They're clutching at everything that is not even related to BEE to show. And then they cite Professor Gumede's fake BEE statistic, 1 trillion rand given to 100 people. If you do a sense check on that, that means 100 people got an average of 10 billion rands each. That makes no sense whatsoever. Even the Tembisa looters, they did not, the Tembisa, tenderpreneurs who looted the Tembisa hospital don't get anything near the 10 billion rands that they're talking about, So now that makes no sense whatsoever. And if they want us to take them seriously, they've got to stop citing fake statistics. Yeah.
Why does it not make sense? I saw the piece in the Financial Times. Why does it not make sense to you?
Because just do a sense check. First of all, that means that 100 people got 10 billion rands each. Who are those 100 people? I do research on this every single day. I'm doing an update of my analysis of the stock exchange. Black ownership on the stock exchange, 1.2%. And then I can tell you by details who those 1.2%. It's 228 billion rands, black ownership on the stock exchange. And the majority of those owners on the stock exchange are not ANC members. There are no ANC members, politically connected people on that 228 billion rand black ownership. So I've got the receipts. I know exactly what is happening in terms of ownership on the economy. This is a white-owned and white-managed economy. Yeah.
Okay, you've got the receipts. Now, why don't white manage? Let's go back to the original point, right? So there's really two parts, the race-based and the fact that it is too narrow. So do you not, there are many people within the ANC, not that this is an ANC conversation, right? Do you not agree that, in fact, black economic empowerment, or as we call it, broad-based, has actually been far too narrow, and therefore, if not as per the example just given from the Financial Times, there has been a case of, we can argue that it's been poorly executed and managed, and therefore many people across the country have not become wealthier. A select few have.
Well, yes, okay, yeah, but the Financial Times is citing fake stats. If they cited my stats, which shows that black ownership is 1.2%, 228 billion rand on the stock exchange, and I used the annual reports of companies that they disclose. So that is the real facts, and it is whichever way, but most of it is broad-based ownership scheme. It's employees, it's communities, it's broad-based ownership schemes. It's not, the Patrice Motsepes are there, but that is not the sum total of the ownership of the 228 billion rand. So we must talk facts. And the problem I'm having with this BEE debate is that nobody is talking facts. And so there's two sides of BEE. There's private sector compliance and there's public sector compliance. Now, the problem with public sector compliance is that the data is very poor. I was looking at the budget before talking to you. We have 352 billion rand procurement from, goods and services by the public sector. But it's a white-owned economy and a white-managed economy. Logic tells me that it's probably the majority is white-owned companies, but we don't have the data. They don't. It should be easy.
Why don't we have the data?
Government.
Why don't we?
It should be easy. I was talking to, in preparation for this, I talked to the BBC, and they said they tried to ask National Treasury to give them the stats, and they got a report that didn't make sense. So I'm calling for National Treasury to give us a list of all the companies that we procure from. Transparency. People are making opinions about something they don't know about. We're all speculating about what is the situation. We need an annual state of procurement in the public sector that they release every year that gives us proper statistics so that we can have informed discussions. For example, City of Joburg. Why don't we hear about what's happening? I live in Johannesburg. Why can't I have technology that will go on a website and I see who did City of Joburg procure from? And was it who are the people? Why did they get the contract for X, Y, and Z? You see what I'm saying? So I believe transparency, reporting will go a long way towards addressing the issues that the DA is talking about here. Yeah, because right now we don't know, and I follow this thing very closely, and if I don't know, I can guarantee the majority of South Africans don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Let's just look at the definition of broad-based economic empowerment. So loosely, my understanding, it's a form of empowerment that will empower the majority, therefore broad-based. Now, forget the dogma. Has it and other stats, right? Maybe you're right, you do need stats to prove it. But can we say, just generally speaking, that broad-based economic empowerment has empowered people on a broad base, or has it failed to do so as one of the key reform measures in a democratic South Africa?
Okay, let's start with ownership. I just gave you the statistics on ownership. Then let's go to management control, which refers to employment equity in the private and the public sector. If you start with the easy one, the public sector, nobody can argue that the public sector has become more female and more black, and it has created a middle class that is in the public sector. Nobody can dispute that. The statistics are there. Now, then if you go to the private sector, you'll see that it is still a white-managed economy. If you look at top management, white males, 3.5% of the population account for 51% of positions in top management. And then you go in similar picture in senior management and middle management. So in the private sector, there's been really little procurement in terms of employment equity. So the short version of it is that there's been transformation in the public sector and very little transformation in the other sectors. Now, then we go down to the stats on skills development. The commission sent them to me. I can't remember the exact number. Then we look at enterprise and supply development, which is the biggest part of the scorecard. And the statistics I got from the BE Commission, 13 billion rand has been spent on enterprise and supply development in the public and the private sector on average over the past 3 years. Now, this is support given to black-owned companies. Now, this is not your politically connected people. So people mustn't conflate issues. Now, show me in what universe is companies diversifying their supply chains to involve black people in their supply chains, in the banks, in the mines. How can that be bad for the economy? It makes no sense whatsoever. And then you look at socio-economic development, your corporate social investment, and corporate social investment precedes BE. It's got a long history that goes back to the 80s, companies doing good in their communities. Now, can the DA explain to me what is so bad about companies investing in CSI? And these initiatives, as I keep saying, they precede BE by decades, and so I think we must talk about facts and not talk about emotions. And
all right,
yeah,
I hear you. So that's the last thing. Let's go back to then the plan. I know we touched on it for a moment, but the DA's proposal of effectively an economic empowerment bill, right? But to remove race. Can we do that in South Africa right now without race, but to look at the values? For example, and I'm quoting the DA federal chairperson, saying, for example, if you apply for a social grant, not on the basis of race, if you go and look who are the main beneficiaries, it's black people. You don't need to target black people. You need to target the need. Does it not make sense?
Okay, let's look at the solution. So they say look at the Sustainable Development Goals. Goal 1 is end poverty in all forms. target 1.1, eradicate extreme poverty. How do you incorporate that into a scorecard? And goal 1 as well has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on its own. And we're talking about hundreds of indicators that companies must comply with. It makes no sense to me how it's going to be measured. It's not measurable. And in terms of targeting race, yes, we still need to target race. We had hundreds of years of colonialism and apartheid. You cannot just expect the market to self-correct itself, because if you rely on the market, it will just exacerbate existing inequalities. Yeah.
Okay, let's leave it at that, and I'm sure we will get responses. People listen to the show, they listen attentively, they have strong views, they will comment. Duma Qubule, appreciate your time on the DA proposal of an economic empowerment bill that drops race as a factor. Let's talk about the Cradock 4 after this.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
All right, so the inquest looking into the deaths of the Cradock 4 at the Gqeberha High Court in Eastern Cape continued well today. The former MP Samuel De Beer testified and said, well, he was one of the factors that were testified. Let's do this. Let's get up to date with what actually happened with Sisipho Ncube, who's an SABC News reporter in Gqeberha. Appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to the listeners as well.
Thank you. Right, so give us the highlight bullet points of the day.
Well, today was an interesting day, Ashraf, after we had gotten through a little bit of technical difficulties because the witness was testifying virtually. So what came up then was that because the witness was the former Deputy Minister of Education, and of course in this case 3 of the Cradock 4 were teachers by profession. And what happened was we learned this of course in the first sitting back in June, that many of the ways that they were oppressed even before they were killed, the pressure was really put on them financially, in that Fort Galata and Matthew Goniwe were dismissed from their jobs as teachers in Cradock. And so what we heard then from Mr. De Beer today was that the education system in Cradock was really the epicenter of resistance in the country, looking at young, Matthew Goniwe was able to mobilize quite a number of youth, a number of young people to really stand against the Bantu education system and many of the systems that were in place back then. So that led to his dismissal then, but he said that he couldn't speak much on that as he hadn't been appointed yet. So he arrived as the Deputy Minister when Goniwe had already been dismissed. So his role was then to look at how to improve that situation and bring peace to Cradock that was in turmoil following that dismissal. And he says that he proposed reinstating Goniwe, saying that might bring peace to Cradock. However, the SSC at the time immediately refuted that, and said we cannot have him in a position of authority as a teacher because he is an enemy to the state, speaking of the late Matthew Goniwe. And so that was something that was really highlighted, was that there was a disagreement between the Department of Education and Training and the SSC, which was the security branch of apartheid at the time, over what to do about the problem, if I can put it like that in inverted commas, of Matthew Goniwe at school.
All right. What happens next?
What happens next? We are looking tomorrow to see the first person of interest that we will see in this case take the stand, in the form of Craig Williamson, who is a former apartheid spy. He's also the only witness, or the only person of interest, at least at this present moment, that we know will be testifying in person. So it will be an interesting day tomorrow to certainly hear what he has to say. He was also a SAPS member at the time, and of course a spy who was quite known in the apartheid sort of era.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Appreciate your time. Sisipho Ncube, SABC News reporter, covering the story of the Cradock 4 inquest in Gqeberha. Much appreciate that. Now, before we get to the news headlines, you need to hear this out very, very carefully, right? So you know this. Every big business starts small, but it's the bold ones that keep on growing. So question, are you bold enough to take the next step? Sanlam Corporate and Santam are calling South Africa's small business champions to the 2025 Sanlam SMME Collective happening on the 21st of October at the Sandton Convention Centre. So it's imminent from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. the whole day, right? It's your chance to grow, to connect with experts, explore funding and access to markets, and discover how AI and sustainability can help your business thrive. I'm thinking I should be there. Now, remember, growing your business isn't just about profit. It's about the people who move your business forward. Explore Sanlam's easy retirement plan to protect what matters most, your people. The SMME Collective seats are limited. Now, to get the seats like ASAP, go to the website sanlamonline.coza/campaign/SMME Collective. Right, time for the news headlines. Here's Kolafelo.
Thanks, Ashraf. Good afternoon. In the headlines at 4:30, the governments of Zimbabwe and Malawi have pledged to cover all repatriation and medical expenses for victims of the bus crash that killed 44 people on the N1 near Louis Trichardt in Limpopo. The Office of the Premier has confirmed that the 44th person has succumbed to injuries in hospital. Accused number one in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial, Moses Biya says high-ranking police officers, including the suspended Deputy Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya, were present in 2019 during his alleged interrogation about the murder of Meyiwa. And the Education Department in Limpopo is optimistic that it will improve its matric pass rate from 85% last year to more than 90% this year. Gregory Hose has the details at 5.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound slow moving towards Boysons, and the N1 northbound in Centurion has a crash before John Foster Drive. In KZN, the N2 southbound has a crash near Umgeni Road, and in Cape Town, the N1 outbound has a vehicle fire incident reported after the R300 highway and Stellenbosch Arterial Road eastbound in Kells River, slow moving at Noyensfontein Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Khapele.
Right, to me, the Monday after the weekend. What can you talk about?
Well, we start things off with cricket this hour, where Pakistan reached 259 for 5 after 91 overs at stumps. This is on day one of the second test against the Proteas today. South Africa dropped 5 catches. This is including of captain Shan Masood, who was dropped on 71. He ended up top scoring with 87, while Abdul Shafiq was dropped 4 times and he made 57. Saud Shakil and Salman Aga will resume tomorrow unbeaten on 42 and 10 respectively. Keshav Maharaj and Simon Harmer took 2 wickets each, while Kagiso Rabada took 1 wicket. Moving on to the women's side of things, Proteas woman bowler Masabata Klaas says that the team's goal is quite clear. They're going all out to win the ICC Women's World Cup. This is in India and Sri Lanka. South Africa booked their spot in the semi-finals without even taking to the field after New Zealand and Pakistan's match was rained out, making them the second team to make the cut after the unbeaten Australia.
To be honest with you, we came here with one goal of winning the trophy. So when coming to rain and stuff, we have no control over that. So for us, actually, also worked in our favor because we managed to play like 20 overs on our last game. So yeah.
In rugby, former junior Springbok prop and captain Zachary Porton has received his first Springbok call-up as national coach Rassie Erasmus named a quality 36-man squad for the outgoing tour in November, which features 4 players who will return to the box setup for the first time this season. Erasmus also placed 10 players on standby. This is including former World Rugby Under-20 Championship player of the tournament, Juarno Augustus, and Bulls back Sebastian de Klerk. Now, the box will face Japan in the first of the 5 tests on consecutive Saturdays at Wembley Stadium in London on the 1st of November before lining up against France at Stade de France on the 8th of November, Italy on the 15th of November, and Ireland on the 22nd of November, while Wales on the 29th of November. Moving on to football, there's still no guarantee that Banyana head coach Desiree Ellis will be on the bench when the national team takes on the Democratic Republic of Congo in the Women's Africa Cup of Nations qualifier next week. This is despite the recommendation from the SAFA National Executive Committee meeting in Mbombela last week, which approved a new 4-year contract for her. And here's SAFA CEO Lydia Monya Pao, saying that there's still disagreement between Ellis and the FA on the terms of the new deal.
Now we are ready to go, but obviously now we have the qualifiers, so close, and we don't have a contract. We don't have a signed contract yet. So obviously, as administration, it kind of puts us in a back foot because now we are under pressure now to ensure that things are done, timelessly, and we might miss some deadlines. But eventually, I think it's really key that we have that contract signed, at the end of the day.
So she'll be in camp now?
I can't comment because we have not signed yet. We are still working on signing the contract.
So, the camp is not starting this coming week? Okay. Thank you, Siwa.
You're welcome.
Well, still staying with football, Nottingham Forest are in advanced talks to appoint Sean Dyche as their manager. Now, Dyche is the main contender to become the next Forest coach. This is following the sacking of Ange Postecoglou, and the Premier League club hope to conclude a deal by the end of today. Forest are 18th on the table after just one win in 8 league games during what has been a season of upheaval. Then finally, in motorsport, the United States Grand Prix will remain in Austin until 2034. This is after race organizers confirmed that they had signed an 8-year contract extension. The Circuit of the Americas, which has hosted the event since 2012, reached agreement with Liberty Media-owned Formula One on Saturday, and will continue to be part of the growing popularity of sport in the United States. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
I just want to say one thing before I let you go. One person messaged to say, Ashraf's got something to smile about. At least Manchester United won. Okay, point noted. And another person said, can we please touch on Morocco winning the World Under-20 Cup? And it's not just that. There's been so they beat Argentina last night 2-0. What a spectacular goal that first goal was. But the same player scored twice, right? But also that, they finished third in the last FIFA World Cup. Or semi-finalists, but also I think under 17 medalists, AFCON. There's been a trajectory in the last 5 or 6 or 7 years that has been spectacular. And all I can suggest is, yes, well done to them. Now, can South Africa please learn from them? So one thing is playing in a World Cup, but the other is competing. I think they're number 10 in the world now in terms of world football. It is hugely impressive, and we have to learn how we can emulate from that. So that's the big thinking point for the day here to me.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer, or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 rand, and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
This October month, SAFM focuses on cybersecurity awareness. As we live more of our lives online, staying safe in the digital world has never been more important. From spotting cyber threats to protecting your personal data, SAFM brings you the conversations that empower you to stay secure. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
So, the Monday after the weekend, Paswane and Patlele with me from Makwe Fund Managers. You've got local and global news, but first an important trading update you want to share, right?
Yeah, this is the afternoon, Ashraf, and to all your listeners. This is the Cal Group trading update. This is the Agri and Fuel Group that serves farmers and rural communities. They reflected the recovery in the operational performance across all business segments. You can think retail, agriculture, and fuel, with agribusiness being the star performer, benefiting from the good weather, increased exports, helping cash flow. Retail saw some fair challenges, reflecting marginal gains as consumers continue to face inflationary and interest rate pressures. Stable, generally, the business holds and is expecting to deliver between 7 and 13% of earnings, supported by commodity pricing and good weather. Into the markets, Ashraf, it's Friday. We're following Friday's panic from a few private credit risks events. Markets are reverting to bringing out gains into the market as they flow money into risk assets. Volatility is breaking down. Economic data we got from the likes of China reflected growth below 5% to 4.8, reflecting loss of momentum in quarter three, pressured by trade tensions with the U.S., local demand, property market challenges ongoing. Europe, France got a downgrade by S&P due to those political stabilities may bring concerns to their finances. U.S. shutdown continues and data is delayed, but markets are pricing in the future growth as the risk appetite improves, supported by company earnings and U.S. and China developments showing some good signals. Gold rebounds up 1.8% to $4,328 an ounce as yields begin to break down in the U.S. Oil is a key developer, down 1.2% at $60.50 a barrel. That continues to be beneficial for global economies as demand is failing to outstrip the heavy supply. U.S. indices are up. We're seeing S&P and Nasdaq over 1%, Dow Jones up 0.6, and Europe DAX 1.6. JSE we're up 0.7, supported by financials up 1.5, industrial 0.8. Resource sector is just marginally up 0.1. The rand reflected gains across the board over 0.5%. We're seeing rand against the dollar 17.25, rand against the euro 20.14, and rand against the pound 23.14.
Right, perfect. Thanks for that, Paswani. We'll connect again with you tomorrow. But a reminder, Jimmy Muyaha with the SFM Market Update comes in and spends an hour talking to you from 6 to 7 this evening.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Guess what's happening tomorrow? Do you know? You should know. It's the beginning of the matric exam season. 2025 matrics. They start tomorrow with their final exam. So the Department of Basic Education has been briefing the media on the state of readiness of South Africa's 2025 matric exams. Now, the Minister of Basic Education, Siviwe Garube, had this to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, a total of 162 question papers have been set, moderated by expert panels and quality assured by Umalusi, who joins us here today. To ensure that every learner has a fair opportunity to demonstrate their learning, the papers for the blind have been adapted to Braille and large print formats, and for the deaf communities, papers have been set, moderated, video recorded in the South African Sign Language. Concessions have also been made for learners living with other disabilities. All question papers have been printed and are ready and secure for distribution to all 9 provinces. Provincial education departments have audited their printing and packing sites, while both provincial and national departments have verified every storage facility. Every truck distributing question papers is GPS tracked, every stop is authorized, and every stage of distribution is monitored. Integrity is not negotiable. It is the cornerstone of the NSC certificate and, of course, the public trust in our education system. This year, we have 6,376 public schools and 579 independent schools that will serve as official examination centers, a total of 6,955 nationwide. A third of these have been audited, while each and every examination center has been categorized according to the risk levels and guides the development by deployment of invigilators and security resources. These examinations will be supported by over 185 marking centers, more than 40,000 trained markers, invigilators, moderators, and data capturers, all appointed with strict compliance with personnel administrative measures. Each of these officials carries a profound responsibility to protect the credibility of our education system and hopes and dreams of our learners. The class of 2025 began grade 1 in 2014. They are the 12th cohort to learn under CAPS and entered school, particularly high school, in 2021 under the shadow of COVID-19 disruptions. Their early high school years were marked by rotational timetables, reduced contact time, incomplete coverage of the grade 8 curriculum, and many had to overcome learning losses and psychological challenges. Yet this cohort embodies resilience. Their journey has been one of recovery and renewal and relentless effort. Over the past 3 years, the department has implemented extensive learner support programs to help close the learning gaps and rebuild confidence. At the heart of our learner readiness campaign is the principle of first day, first period, first lesson. All provinces, we are very proud to say, ensured that textbooks and stationery for learners were delivered before the reopening of the school year in 2024, enabling a strong start to the academic year. Our support has also been structured around 4 pillars. 1, learner support. 2, teacher support, curriculum enrichment, and school readiness. Under learner support, every province implemented autumn, winter, and spring classes, making sure that, particularly in our gateway subjects, that there's strong support there. Under teacher support, we've trained and reskilled teachers in underperforming subjects and districts. The national diagnostic reports from the 2024 NSC examinations have distributed a guide of teaching in 2025, highlighting common misconceptions and effective strategies. Under curriculum enrichment, the department produced a rich set of study resources, including self-study guides, literature, Mind the Gap booklets, subject-specific survival kits.
Okay, so there we are in terms of the state of readiness of, the entire institution, I would think, that puts together matric results, matric examinations 2025. I'll get to you in a moment.
You could spend 10 minutes trying to fix the office printer, or get a 10-minute quote from Outsurance that could save you thousands on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. Like 65-year-old Helena, who now pays an incredibly low 398 Rand a month for her 2025 Hyundai Exter. With Outsurance, you get the legendary Out Bonus that pays you a percentage of your premiums back if you're claim-free. SMS out to 30754. After switching, 48-year-old Felicity now pays only 836 Rand a month for her 2020 Hyundai Tucson. Outsurance will either save you money on your car insurance or give you cash. If Outsurance can't beat what you're currently paying, ask them for 500 Rand. Make that 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Savings or cash, you have nothing to lose. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, you certainly are on the pulse. I think so. Let's hear you out. Lesiba in Kgobokwane. I do say when you call in, you effectively put your town or your city, or wherever you are, you put your region on the map. So Lesiba, you're doing just that. Let's get your thoughts. Hello.
Yeah, good evening, Ashraf, and good evening to SAFM listeners. Mine's about the commission. You know what Ashraf? You see, every day when there is a sitting of commission, people day by day with the information that is led before the commission, people are getting angry and angry and angry. So, but we are saying, as much as people are getting angry because of the things that happened in the past, and it seems as if these things are continuously happening, we are saying let them be open to commission, give the commission the necessary information. But the law enforcement agencies, because they're getting this information, they must make sure they follow information as speedy as possible and take action. And we want to also add to other departments, because this is not happening at the national level only. We've got the provincial government, where the officials there, the CFO, the HOD, the DDGs, that are taking instruction, illegal instruction, from the politicians about how to issue tenders, how how to loot money and so on. We are saying to those individuals, because this politician will give you instruction without necessarily writing down, without necessarily keeping the records. You keep information for yourself. Make sure that when times comes, because there will be time like this where officials will be charged, they will have to account, and the politician will not be there. Some of the politicians will not even be in those positions, not even in government. We are saying for yourself, for your sake, for your safety, keep the information as we implement those illegal restrictions, because one day it will happen. Even at the municipalities, municipal managers, CFO are doing the same. They are implementing illegal instruction, and they will have themselves to account. One day they will have to account as we go to municipal elections next year. We don't know which political parties will come there.
All right. Well, I think you make a very important point. Thanks for that, Lisiba. Appreciate your time saying keep those records when you are instructed by your seniors to do something that technically would be seemingly illegal, irregular in the workplace. Yeah? Okay. For the comments, let's hear it.
Afternoon, guys. I could not agree more with the DA. It's about time we realize that this whole system of BEE, however easy you have, was implemented to divide us, for us to lose focus and concentrate on racializing each other. It has to be scrapped.
And then agree. So you agree with the DA's position of an economic empowerment policy that is not race-based then? So I get it.
Yes, Ashraf. No. Motsepe is a little bit out of order now, because in today's newspaper, Motsepe was asked to whether would he go for presidency, and then his statement was he is not mad. He is not mad. Now suddenly he says the South Africans need ANC. Why? So there's a contrast there. Thanks, Willie and Kuma.
Thanks. Why do you think he said it suddenly? He's always been a supporter of the ANC, hasn't he? It's not a sudden position, I think.
Any reasonable South African now will know that we don't have a police officers in this country. We've got the criminals. And we don't have a leaders. We've got the criminals. How come a new minister that has been so implicated in too many things, wrong things, not even good things, wrong things, a new person in the office? I shame, this is Sodom and Gomorrah. This is not a country.
Sodom and Gomorrah. I hear that. I don't know when last I heard that. Maybe you'll tell me. There's more.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is not really surprising looking at what is unfolding at the Matlanga Commission. Let us not be quick to forget when this actually, for us to know in terms of the integrity of the country and the sovereignty, in terms of upholding the law, when we need not to forget when the Minister of the National Defense Force was made to be the from the basic education minister, and the one who should have been in charge was made their deputy. It really left much to be questioned.
Okay. It's amazing how, so many people have a very, very clear view on these issues.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Matomi from Tembisa. Yeah, I think those people who work in police service, they don't like their job. They don't love their work at all. As South Africans, we must learn to love our work. If you work at a private company or a state-owned entity, you must love your particular job. First of all, love your job. I thank you.
You must love your job. But you see, there's no guarantee you can always must love your job. I just wonder, how many people listening to me now, like you listening, do you love your job? Hey, I'm not suggesting I don't love my job. In fact, I've got multiple jobs. I do different things. I do broadcasting, program directing, moderating, advising, Champion South Africa. That's what I do. But do I love everything about it? Some parts I do, some parts you find a bit irritating, and maybe that will be the same for you. But what happens if you don't? It doesn't mean you must walk out. Can you afford to walk out? How many can do that?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon, Ashraf. Lenon Khwedi. Ashraf, I would suggest that Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi become our new police minister, so he can overhaul the whole department of police services in our country. So he can employ credible police officials and change all these things and arrest all those who are implicated in wrongdoings in our country and recoup all the monies that have been siphoned out, that were siphoned out by these crooks. Lenon Khwedi.
Okay, and here's another on BE.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and SAFM listeners. Marumo Mahike. DA, they are a certain group of people as well, and many of them are white people, and I think all of them, they are rich, those guys. Many of them, if not all of them. So they can't say BEE must be scrapped. We also want to take part in the mainstream economy, but maybe they should say the approach of BEE should be changed, not to benefit only political connected elite. Thank you very much, Marumo Mahike.
Okay.
Ashraf, I'm Takatawe, land location of Mvaba. I'm concerned about the killings in the taxi industry. I think now it's becoming boring. Every month we know that there is someone who's going to be shot at in this industry. Now there is one who was shot at Altram right in Tripsen. No, this is unfair, guys. You cannot grow this industry by eliminating each other. You need to find a common ground. It is enough. Long term is happening like this, but it is enough. Thanks. Think otherwise.
It's amazing, again, enough. Well, it is enough, and it just continues.
Hi, Ashraf. The Triple B is a racial economy. When it comes to the equality in economy, this won't happen just because the traditions of majority blacks is to be politicians and union representatives rather than to be industrialists or entrepreneurs here in South Africa. So, and the Triple B is only privilege for the elite group from the group of black people. So that Triple B is dysfunctional. My name is Les.
You know, I don't know whether everybody's got that ambition of becoming this politician. I mean, where do you get that from? Really? From the whole, 50 million people?
Ashraf, good afternoon, man. This is Flores from the beautiful Winelands. Ashraf, when there's always talks about BEE, I sometimes wonder, as a colored person, where do I fit in? Because sometimes I'm being accepted as black, and sometimes I'm just being a colored. And that is confusing. I know I'm a South African citizen, but economic empowerment should not just suit a certain elite group. It should suit every South African who strive to make his life better. Have a good show. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you. But you see, so does the DA then, or others like that, have a point, which is that in principle, there's no question the beneficiaries of any form of economic empowerment would have to be the majority of people in South Africa who are impoverished, who happen to be black, and for reasons that we well know about. So, yes, that will happen. And they're saying it'll happen anyway. But they're saying instead of it being based on color, it must be based on needs. So if that's the case, right, you'd get a situation. It's interesting you mentioned, we spoke about Patrice Motsepe earlier on. So someone like him, does he still qualify for BE now? Or does he disqualify himself on the basis of his, achievements and accumulation of wealth to the point, or his children, do they still benefit on the basis that they are disadvantaged? Or have they moved away from disadvantage to advantage, which is really what you want everyone to be in? So that means there could be others like him from his same family who are still disadvantaged, and there could be white South Africans and Indian and colored South Africans who are all disadvantaged and many others who are advantaged. So you then do it on a needs basis, like how you apply for a grant, for example, if you did, to say you want a subsidy, but then you have to prove that you actually can't afford it, that sort of thing. Do they have a point or not? I wonder.
Ashraf, this is Mtwenzi. This thing of Madlanga Commission is really worrying.
Many years ago, the criminals used to be so scared of the police. They used to be the ones hiding. Today, we've got police officers giving testimony in hiding. They're actually scared of the criminals. I mean, really, we've got a very big mountain to climb, honestly. The situation seems to be so bad. But yeah, I've got some hope that really they will turn this situation around. Hopefully, the criminals will be the ones that will have to run and hide for the police. We can't continue like this.
Okay, let's just pause on that for the moment in terms of your thoughts and your calls. Interesting, as we talk about BE, there's a whole conversation, and it's not happening in South Africa, but it's about apartheid, defining what is the meaning of apartheid. And that's come about because of the oft-repeated position now where other people are talking about what happens in other countries, and they're using the example of apartheid to say, this is apartheid. So that conversation is taking place. We'll talk about that in a moment. Let's get the news now. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg.
Thank you, Ashraf. Zim in Malawi to cover crash victims' medical expenses and most Amazon services restored. Good day to you. The governments of Malawi and Zimbabwe have pledged to cover all repatriation and medical expenses for victims of a bus crash in which 44 people were killed on the N1 in Limpopo more than a week ago. The office of the Premier has confirmed that the 44th person has succumbed to injuries in hospital. Zimbabwean diplomat Shepard Gwenzi made the announcement alongside Malawi's High Commissioner to South Africa.
The government of Zimbabwe will continue to assist the families of both the deceased and the injured with transport and accommodation until the conclusion of the ongoing processes. We are working with the government of South Africa and the High Commission of Malawi to ensure that the requirements enabling the repatriation of the deceased for burial in Zimbabwe and Malawi, respectively, are completed in the shortest time frame possible.
Accused number one in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial, Musi Sibiya, says high-ranking police officers, including the suspended Deputy Police Commissioner for Crime Detection, Shadrack Sibiya, were present in 2019 during his alleged interrogation over the murder of Meyiwa. Sibiya is under cross-examination in the High Court in Pretoria, where he and 4 others have been charged with the 2014 murder of Meyiwa. He was questioned by State Prosecutor George Baloyi.
We'll put it to you as why you are confused regarding the order. It's simply this, that you were not there at Kleurkop as you allege.
Umcabango wakhe lo mina Kleurkop ngaya amaphoyisa angishaya isicala lokufika ukufaka Senzo Meyiwa mabatshena futhi ukuthi angazi uZungu uMakhubu uSibiya uLishabanga ngaqala ukubabona khona lapha ya so lapha lokho engisho ukuthi kwenzeke lithabo lokho eKleurkop kwenzeka.
What I'm saying here is to what happened in Kleurkop. It indeed happened in 2019.
Who are you referring to as Sibiya?
Ubani lo ukhuluma ngaye uthi uSibiya? Shadrack Sibiya.
The Education Department in Limpopo is optimistic it'll improve its matric pass rate from 85% last year to more than 90% this year. Learners in the province will start with English Paper 1 on Thursday.
We are ready, like everything that we have adjusted, everything that we have prepared, we are ready for the exam because the motivation that the principal is giving us, teachers, they are motivating us to work hard.
My academic journey was not really great because, as you know, being in grade 12 is hard work, is is a big job. So I have my schedule with regard to studying. It has started on Mondays to Saturday. I study every day. I make sure that every day I take my book, study, work hard, making sure that I study each and every subject.
The member of the Mayoral Committee for Public Safety in the city of Johannesburg, Mgcini Shwaku, expressed outrage over what he says is the unlawful arrest of 5 Metro Police members. He says the officers were arrested allegedly by the SAPS while conducting a legitimate vehicle recovery operation.
This is in contravention of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Province National and the municipalities on how the Metro Police is going to be working with the South African Police. Tensions now are going to again resurface, and this working together relationship might be tainted at this point in time. There's been also a Memorandum of Understanding that says that the Metro Police officers are not limited to work in their areas of jurisdiction.
Amazon's cloud computing service says it's fixed the underlying problem that's disrupted hundreds of websites and apps worldwide. Amazon says most services should now be working. The BBC's Joe Tidy has more.
So many websites affected by this: Snapchat, Duolingo, Zoom, Roblox. Reddit has also been seeing some problems, and it's all related to Amazon Web Services. So Amazon Web Services, AWS, is run by the e-commerce giant Amazon, but actually not many people realize, but AWS is a massive part of the Amazon empire, and something has happened in the back end of AWS where they've pushed out some sort of an upgrade or an update in the code, and it's completely made everything fall over.
The top story: the governments of Zimbabwe and Malawi have pledged to cover all repatriation and medical expenses for victims of a bus crash in Limpopo more than a week ago. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Gos.
In your headlines this hour, Portland gets first Bok call-up in Castle Lager outgoing tour squad. Sweden appoints Potter, and Bolter's poor run continues with first-round loss. More details at 5:30.
And this traffic report is brought to you by Otto & General Business Insurance. Otto & General, never not there. Otto & General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Roodepoort has a crash at Albertina Sisulu Road. The R21 Nelson Mandela Drive southbound in Pretoria has a crash near Elephant Road, and the N1 northbound in Centurion, a crash before John Foster Drive. In KZN, the M4 southbound queuing towards Basil February Road, and the N2 southbound, a crash near Umgeni Road. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound, a vehicle fire incident reported after the R300 highway. Marine Drive northbound in Milnerton, queuing at Loxton Road, and Symphony Way, slow moving between Delft Main Road and Govan-Becky Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
And this traffic report was brought to you by Otto & General Business Insurance. Otto & General, never not there. Otto & General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
At Auto & General, we understand your business is built on more than just vehicles. It's your stock, tools and equipment, and the premises where you work. Auto & General Business Insurance is designed for businesses like yours, protecting your assets against fire, theft, storms, and other unexpected events. To protect your livelihood, visit autogen.co.za and get an obligation-free business insurance quote. Auto & General, never not there. Auto & General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM will be hosting its annual Breast Cancer Awareness Roundtable on the Full Circle with Bridget Masinga on Thursday, the 30th of October 2025 at the Indaba Hotel, Spa and Conference Centre in Four Ways, Johannesburg. If you want to be part of the audience, email your name and surname to events@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. This October month, SAFM shines a light on mental health awareness. This month, we bring you conversations that break the stigma, encourage care, and provide strategies to protect your mental well-being. Because it's okay not to be okay. And together, we can build a healthier tomorrow. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So we all know what the word or the phrase in this case apartheid means, don't we? And then you get apartheid and you get anti-apartheid. You get the anti-apartheid movement, and then we talk about apartheid South Africa, and recent times you've heard even the phrase or the words apartheid Israel, right? And you could talk about the same being applied to apartheid Namibia at the time. So it's interesting that I bring that up because it's interesting. You see, anti-apartheid activists, human rights campaigners, and legal experts they've converged in Banjul in the Gambia region to discuss the United Nations draft Crimes Against Humanity Treaty. Now, this after last year's NGO forum that also took place in Banjul that discussed reparatory justice for historical injustices, in terms of reparations. It's very important. Now, this year's meeting looked at the conventional definition of apartheid as what you and I may think it is, and how or should it be updated within the treaty itself. So let's find out more about it with Wendy Isaac, human rights lawyer and senior expert in gender justice and international law at Madre. Appreciate your time, Wendy. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Ashraf.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Why? I mean, the fact that it was already discussed or tabled, has there been a need to rethink the conventional definition of apartheid in the first place? Why so?
Absolutely. And let's. I like the fact that you started with the definition itself. Now let's look at how and precisely the definition of the crime of apartheid. It is defined as an inhumane act committed in the context of an institutionalized regime of systematic oppression and domination by one racial group over any other racial group or groups, and committed with the intention of maintaining that regime, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a very precise and clear definition of what the crime of apartheid is. And this goes back to the Apartheid Convention that was adopted in the UN system in the 70s, followed by the Rome Statute in the last couple of decades. And now what the UN system is doing is it's developing or elaborating a new convention that will look at various crimes. And the crime of apartheid is just one of the crimes against humanity that the UN system is looking at. What has been happening these last, I want to say since 2014, is that the International Law Commission in New York, in the UN, has been thinking about what are these crimes, how do they need to be elaborated in a convention, and what do member states need to do. Now, this topic is important right now and in Banjul because many people may not be aware that the South African mission to the UN in New York has been in conversation about this very definition of apartheid, this very new convention on crimes against humanity. That information or that conversation has been going on in New York for quite a period of time. We have come to Banjul for one thing, to say, guys, let us look closely again at the definition of the crime of apartheid. What are the gaps and what are the limitations of this definition?
Mm-hmm.
There are two things. The one thing is that because this is an international criminal law treaty, it defines racial groups in a very specific way. Racial groups here are determined by biological evidence or hereditary membership. What is the impact of this thing of looking at biological evidence and that kind of thing? All it does is that it categorizes people according to outdated modes of thinking about who is black, who is white, and what about all the people in between, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we are suggesting and we are proposing, and we've done the legal analysis, we've done the research, we've looked closely at international human rights norms and standards, and what we see is that if you add just two words to the current definition of apartheid, if you add the words based on, if you say apartheid is a system of oppression and domination based on race, it cures a number of things. The one thing that it does, which is absolutely essential, is that it moves away from thinking about, is the victim black or white? How do we determine this biologically? But it places the obligation on the perpetrator to say, did the perpetrator think that this person belonged to a particular group? Then it does the second thing, which is really important. It actually politically advances the agenda that the South African government and many global South states have been engaged in, and human rights lawyers and human rights activists, to respond to the apartheid practices of the Israeli authorities in Palestine that have been going on since at least 1967. Now, there is clarity, and please, I want to be very certain that this is clear. Under human rights law, there is no confusion about the fact that there is apartheid in Palestine implemented by the Israeli authorities and have been across Palestine, the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And even inside the sovereign state of Israel.
Okay.
And I can assure you that this is correct because I've been there 11 times over 13 years. Now, what we are saying is that when you add the words based on, it places or it brings in Palestinian victims of apartheid under the protection of international criminal law. That's why we're in Banjul, to say to African member states, You did great things for the South African people when we lived under the regime of apartheid up to 1994. You did amazing things for the people of Namibia, who are still processing and dealing with the legacy of apartheid, as we are as South Africans. Now is the time to look at the definition and make sure that this other context, the Palestinian context, is also protected under international law.
Okay, so I mean, you raised so many interesting points, but you're saying central, because there are so many different forms of oppression. And clearly, apartheid is a form of oppression, but you could get other forms of oppression that are not race-based. Then that's not apartheid. That is oppression. That's something else. But for this purpose, apartheid is, as you said, it is based on race.
Yes, based on race, absolutely. Look, I want to be, and I'm glad that you inserting this point, because sure, our work as Madre and colleagues that we've been working closely with the Nelson Mandela Foundation, for instance, with the Foundation for Human Rights. I mean, the Foundation for Human Rights has at least 5 cases pending before courts in South Africa, where they're looking at what happened to people who were supposed to be prosecuted for apartheid era crimes and were not, and families of victims who are claiming damages. So the conversation about what is apartheid, who is prosecuted, who should have been prosecuted, is the real and live one in South Africa right now. And so what we're saying is there's a range of crimes in this convention, in this draft convention rather, but what we need to be certain of is that the crime of apartheid that is being discussed does 2 things. Number one, that it does not lose the historical significance and the connection to what happened in South Africa and what happened in Namibia. Because if we don't participate and engage, especially as civil society, we know that norms and laws, especially at the UN level, can be reframed, recrafted to mean something different, and they will lose their essence. So we're sitting here and saying, as Namibians and as South Africans and as Africans generally, we have to make sure that this definition is retained, but that it's updated with the words based on, so that the Palestinian situation and context and Palestinian brothers and sisters are also protected by international criminal law. And I'm going to emphasize one thing here. We know for a fact that the point around or the blockage that people have around seeing Palestinians as human rights, people are entitled to human rights protection, and even here under international criminal law, is because there are global powers that do not want to recognize Palestinian oppression. And we have to be sure that this issue of apartheid is not also a thing where it's used to exclude people.
All right. So in the past we spoke historically of just apartheid in South Africa, and maybe by extension that other province, as it was called, Southwest Africa or Namibia, right? Yes, very, very topically now, it's very much Israel being used as the focus of being an apartheid nation, right? Are we getting to a situation where, in fact, that same definition could be applied to many other countries, if not today, down the line, as long as these countries act out race-based policies that impact negatively on one race and sorts to exert a sense of hegemony and dominance over that race purely on the basis that they are not politically different, but they're racially different?
Absolutely. And that is the purpose of international law, right? To anticipate a situation where there will be global. First of all, we want global application of international norms and standards. We're saying, yes, apartheid South Africa, yes, apartheid Namibia, and contemporary apartheid in Palestine. But there is a very real likelihood, and I'm not going to put country examples on the table right now because I don't work on those countries, right? But I think we can think of several global north countries where systemic race-based discrimination is so prevalent, and it's perpetrated with such a level of impunity that one can even start to think about, could this be a system of apartheid in ways that make sense? Because the word is very clear. It's clearly understandable. So yes, the anticipation is that this treaty must be adopted, the definition must be clear, and it must anticipate that anywhere in the world you go to, let's take Myanmar, right? Let's take Myanmar and the situation in Myanmar. Again, I'm not going to comment too much on it because I don't work on that context. But there are colleagues who are saying the level of violence and discrimination and the gravity of the violence. In fact, one must think about, could that be apartheid? The question is being asked, it has not been answered. the context where the question has been asked properly, thoroughly, and for decades, actually, by Palestinian human rights organizations, by international human rights organizations, by, I'm glad that the Special Rapporteur on the Occupied Palestinian Territory will be speaking at the Sandton Convention Center on Saturday in South Africa.
Yeah.
Because this issue has been addressed in Palestine for many, many years. And the lack of political will to clearly articulate that it's there. But you know what? Who knows? Maybe that question might be asked about, look, should we look at racism in the U.S.? I'm not saying that will ever happen. But I'm saying that the idea here is international law should be ready and available and applicable to every other country context.
Okay.
We don't own the crime of apartheid as South Africa, and we need to make sure that does not.
Yeah, I think that's an important. So it's not unique to South Africa as many would have thought or had hoped to be. It's just a uniquely South African thing, and move on with it. But just two things before I let you go. Can we then include, or do you include, if not race-based, do you include religion-based discrimination as apartheid?
I would not necessarily. Okay. So what we want to think about when we think about this crime, we want to think, okay, are there other categories or other identities that a person holds which might aggravate the experience of being targeted or aggravate aggravate the crime. So when we look at the draft treaty on crimes against humanity, because we're not looking at the crime of apartheid in isolation from the other crimes that are listed, right? Another crime that is listed here is the crime of persecution. Right? In the same draft. Crime of persecution includes ethnicity, religion, and gender. Okay? So what we want to say is that apartheid occupies a very particular space in history and in the contemporary setting of Palestine, and that's race-based. And there are many ways in which the impact of race-based discrimination and racist violence appears in people's lives, or manifest in people's lives in ways that religious-based violence is not part of it, right? And the fact that we have a historical record of race being used or being integrated or forming part of a government's policy, it has happened specifically around the crime of apartheid when it relates to race. I'm not going to say outright right now that 10 years, 15 years down the line, we won't be talking about religious-based apartheid. I can't anticipate that. What I'm working with right now is evidence, a historical record, and I'm working with analysis and legal analysis that's been done by highly respected scholars who have looked at very specific contexts and have anticipated others and have said, you know what, it may not end in Palestine. We may look around and say, is there apartheid in, say, let me pick another context, perhaps Afghanistan? I don't know that, right?
Okay, yeah.
Someone else will have to do that work. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, you have. So it could be a form of discrimination, but it's not apartheid, which means somebody else needs to deal with that completely, and that's different. Just the last thing, so you've come together. What happens next?
Well, we hope that, first of all, that this meeting here in Banjul, our meeting on apartheid and this draft treaty, is happening on the sidelines of the 85th Ordinary Session of the African Commission. The African Commission is Africa's regional human rights mechanism. It's the premier body on the...
We may just have lost.
Member states, UN organs, the largest gathering of civil society, everybody is gathered here for 12 days. What we want out of this meeting is a firm commitment from the regional human rights mechanism to say they will be looking at how African governments engage with this process at the UN. We want member states and the South African delegation in particular, and the Namibian delegation if they are present, to say in the presence of other African Union member states, apartheid matters, we want recognition because we also want reparations. You mentioned this earlier. Topic of reparations for 2025 is the African Union theme. We have to make the connection between the grave crime or the gross crime of apartheid and reparations, as it's discussed.
Wendy, we could chat for an hour. What a thought-provoking conversation this is. Wendy Isaak, the human rights lawyer, senior expert in gender justice and international law at Madrid, looking at, rethinking, just adding words to what we know as apartheid. And of course, that reference to the Human Rights Rapporteur on Palestine is Francesca Albanese, arriving in South Africa, I think imminently so, and speaking on Saturday as part of the annual Nelson Mandela lecture that takes place at Sandton Convention Centre. And big crowds, I understand, would be there. I'll certainly be amongst those who will be there. Right, let's talk about energy of a different sort right after this.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
So this is so interesting with several Eskom coal plants we know facing retirement, and it's one of the biggest issues we've had in the country, mainly due to environmental goals and energy transition. Let's find out more about South Africa's wind farmers, 720 megawatt wind farm, and what that means and how that will change our lives, I'm saying for the better. Mark Tenton is the CEO at Red Cap Energy. Mark, thanks for connecting to us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Right. First of all, let's start with that opening premise. Is South Africa under serious pressure not just to provide energy for all of us, but in doing so, as Eskom and others have done, to also move away from traditional ways of burning energy and providing it for us to things like wind farms, etc.?
South Africa, like any other country in the world, needs to look at its energy mix and ensure that its energy mix is future-proofed in terms of the cost and the carbon emissions it would make. So we're now on track with government released a resource plan actually yesterday evening, where they're showing our path to decarbonize and come up with a mix that is fit for purpose to take us into the future.
Okay. And so tell me more in terms of, therefore, the plans, because, the one we're speaking about, the wind farm, will come up online, I understand, in about 4 years' time? How will that change things?
The way it changes things is we're very fortunate in South Africa that wind, when it generates electricity, is generally generating electricity in our morning and evening peaks. So when you don't have wind power in your mix, you would often have to do that using the gas peakers we have. And the gas peakers are somewhere around 8 to 10 times the cost of what wind power costs you. So it's a perfect complement to what Eskom has in the system now, when it generates, and obviously as you've alluded to, it has the additional benefit of it is clean in terms of carbon emissions.
So where does then Red Cap fit in on this? Because we think of government, we think of supply there, and we also think of now these new independent power producers coming online. Where do you fit in?
So, Ashraf, we are a proudly South African wind developer. We've been in business since 2009. And I actually looked at my notes. I spoke to you in 2013 when we did our first successful wind farm under the government program. But like many, we've now shifted away from government program because it's stalled in wind to developing wind farms that ultimately the power is sold to the private sector. So there's a very healthy sector that's developed of companies such as ourselves, developing these projects and then taking them all the way to commercial operation.
Okay, 2013, 12 years. My goodness, right? Well, what about, I would take it for people listening in. They sometimes get lost in the macro conversations at a very high level. How do you reduce it to them? A person listening to me now, many people listening from big metros like, Joburg, Cape Town, Pretoria, Durban, but many others listening from, small metros and small towns and small communities around the country. Why does this conversation matter to them?
Sure, it's a very good question. The conversation matters because we've all come out of load shedding, which we all understood. So that taught us that we need to ensure that South Africa has the right energy mix. Overlay that with the need to ensure that we have a price path for energy that is sustainable for the country. So we don't have huge spikes in our future and it becomes predictable. So if you're sitting in a small town, you care about the fact that when you turn your kettle on, it will boil your water and your wallet is not being emptied while you do that. And that's why projects like this are important, because they add generation to our mix that is cost effective. And then going back to the issue we had of load shedding, it ensures that we are protected going forward from future load shedding.
Okay, well, lots to consider over that. Mark Taunton, thanks for your time, CEO at Red Cap Energy. And, well, you listening in now, you know why it matters to you. And if you don't, I think we need to make it our business to find out exactly how it truly matters to us. Mark, thanks for your time. We'll have this up as a podcast as well, as many of the other conversations. You know this, we do this daily. Just go to the website, safm.co.za. Hey, how about telling other people that you listen to the show? I mean, I met some people over the weekend and interesting conversations about the type of how they feel the national pulse is that important to them. So if you're one of them, and I'm sure you are, besides just listening in, how about you telling others about it? I mean, you've got these fabulous WhatsApp groups. We all do. Tell them, hey, come on, take a listen to the National Pulse. Right now, 5:30, here's the news headlines with Greg House.
A look at the headlines. The Matlanga Commission's heard how Warrant Officer Michael Tau is going to pay his way out of jail, escape or eliminate investigating officers involved in a murder case if he wasn't granted bail. The governments of Zimbabwe and Malawi have pledged to cover all repatriation and medical expenses for victims of a bus crash in Limpopo. And a period of observation is now in place in the DRC after the discharge of the last known patient infected with the Ebola virus. There's a full update at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Edenvale has a crash before Modderfontein Road. The N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview, slow moving on both routes towards Gilulis Interchange, and Esquiampatley Drive northbound in Pretoria has a crash at Mood Street. In KZN, the M4 southbound queuing towards Basel February Road exit in Cape Town. The N2 outbound, a crash before the N7 highway exit. Govan Becky Road in Khayelitsha has heavy traffic at Symphony Way, and Strandfontein Road southbound in Pelican Park, slow moving towards Spine Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Kapele.
Jimmy, let's, what's top of your agenda?
Things up with rugby this hour, where former junior Springbok prop and captain Zachary Porthen has received his first Springbok call-up as national head coach Rassie Erasmus named a quality 36-man squad for the outgoing tour in November, which features 4 players who will return to the box setup for the first time this season. Erasmus also placed 10 players on standby. This is including former World Rugby Under-20 Championship player of the tournament, Juarno Augustus, and Bulls back Sebastian de Klerk. Now, the Boks will face Japan in the first of 5 tests on consecutive Saturdays at Wembley Stadium in London, starting from the 1st of November, before lining up against the likes of France, Italy, Ireland and Wales. Still staying with rugby, Sharks coach John Plumtree says how his team regroups in the coming days will be crucial. This is after their 34-26 defeat to Ulster in the United Rugby Championship at Kings Park, their first home game of the season. The defeat means that the Sharks are still winless after 4 matches following away losses to Glasgow Warriors and Leinster and a draw against the Dragons. Plumtree says that they have only a week to turn things around before hosting the Scarlets next weekend. In cricket, Pakistan reached 259 for 5. This is after 91 overs at stumps on day 1 of the second test against the Proteas today. South Africa dropped 5 catches, including of captain Shan Masood, who was dropped on 71. He ended up top scoring with 87, while Abdullah Shafiq was dropped 4 times and he made 57. Saud Shakil and Salman Aga will resume tomorrow unbeaten on 42-10 respectively. Keshav Maharaj and Simon Harmer have 2 wickets each, with Kagiso Rabada taking 1 wicket. Then in football, former West Ham manager Graham Potter has been announced as the new head coach of Sweden. The 50-year-old has accepted the role on an initial short-term basis in a bid to aid Sweden's faltering World Cup qualification campaign. Now, Sweden has been looking for a new coach since their 1-0 loss to Kosovo on the 13th of October, a result that made automatic qualification from their group impossible. However, they could still reach the playoffs even without finishing in the top 2 of Group B as a result of their success success in the 2024-25 Nations League, where they topped their group. Potter was sacked by West Ham at the end of September. This is after a disappointing start to the season. Then in tennis, British number 3 Katie Boulter's poor run of form continued with straight sets losses to world number 44 Eva Lees in the first round of the Pan Pacific Open. Boulter was beaten 6-2, 6-1 in just 1 hour and 14 minutes by the 23-year-old German. With that said, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more on other sports tomorrow.
Right, thanks for that, Chumi, and of course more sport. Well, on the show, right, top sport coming up from 7 to 8 this evening. So don't miss that 1 hour of sport.
Get ready for the biggest flavors from South Africa's smallest chefs. The Taste Master Junior every Tuesday evening at 7:30 on SABC2 follows 12 talented teens as they whisk, chop and bake their way through fun foodie challenges and try to impress the judges Zola Nene and Fritz Quinn, who will rise to the top and be crowned South Africa's next culinary star. Don't miss the Taste Master Junior, Tuesday evenings at 7:30, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. only on SABC2.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, Jimmy Moyaha hosts the SAFM Market Update. Lots to come from there. But Jimmy, I think on the basis of what we just had a chat about wind farms, you want to talk about an integrated resource plan. Tell me about that.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. The Minister of Electricity, Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, gave us the integrated resource plan for South Africa that has been approved by the government. And this is a plan that will see us potentially go into everything from nuclear to gas as energy sources over the next 15 years. We're going to break down this plan. We're going to go through it with our independent energy analyst, a man who's familiar to the National Pulse, Tsepo Khadima. He's going to join me when we take a look at this and see what we make of these developments. Then, while we're sticking with the energy conversation, we're going to have a conversation with the team at Standard Bank around the role of private capital in energy conversations, particularly looking at South Africa and the African continent. Then we've also got a conversation taking a look at the announcement by the team at Optasia that they will be listing on the JSE. We got this announcement last week, if not the week before that. We've had an update from that perspective via a SENS release. We're going to be taking a look at this with the Chief Executive Officer of the company and getting a sense of what this listing means for what could potentially be the largest fintech to ever list on the JSE. And then we've got a conversation with the team at Bonitas Medical Fund, taking a look at the medical aid landscape and how to best navigate that landscape. And then, because it's Monday, we've got our digital drive conversation. We're going to be taking a look at wearables, everything from Oura rings to Meta glasses to smartwatches, the world of wearables and how that has changed. We're going to be discussing that with our resident tech and EV specialist, Nafisa Akabor. So we've got a full show lined up, coming up a little later on, looking at various things. But before we get to that, a sense of the markets today. It was, by all accounts, a good start to the week. If I look at the equity markets, they started off in the green. The currency started off a little firmer and a little stronger. We know we've got a couple of big announcements coming out this week. But a quick sense of the equity markets internationally, the Hang Seng was by far the best performing market in Asian markets, up 2.5%, whilst the Nikkei was the worst performing, the only market to finish in the red in international indices, down 1.4%. European markets were all in the green. The DAX, the biggest gainer there, 1.8% up, and the FTSE a close second behind, around 0.2%. The US markets are currently in the green, with the Nasdaq up about 1.3% and the S&P up almost a full percent. South African markets also having a fairly strong day. Resource counters down about 0.25% on the day's trade, which is a bit bizarre considering that the gold price is back at near all-time highs, around $4,345 a fine ounce. But the other side of things, if we look at the indices, industrials up 0.2%, financials up 1.4%, the all share up 0.5%, and the top 40 up almost 0.6%. And back to the commodities, we did say that the gold price is up about 2% on the day's trade. Brent crude is at $60.55 a barrel. This is very good for what we hope to see in terms of fuel prices. I wonder if it'll stay this low. I don't know if we'll break below the $60 a barrel level, but we'll be keeping an eye on that going into this week. Platinum pricing, $1,647, palladium, $1,532, silver around $52.40 an ounce there. The currency side of things also looking very interesting, looking very strong on the part of the rand. It's gained ground against all of the major currencies. It's up about 0.75% against the dollar at 17 rand 23. The British pound is at 23 rand 14. 1 euro 20 rand and 10 cents. 1 Australian dollar 11 rand 24. 1 Bitcoin is back above $110,000 a Bitcoin. It's currently at around 111,000. But with that stronger rand, we have just inched back above the 1.9 million rand mark. We're at about 1,920,000 rand a Bitcoin in rand terms, but we'll see if that will hold this week. As I said, we've got a lot going on in the markets. We've got a lot of earnings numbers out of the US. We've also got an interest rate decision out of the US next week. We've got a grey listing update from South Africa at the end of this week. So there's a lot that the market needs to contend with, and there's a lot that we need to keep an eye on for the week. But that conversation and these other conversations will come just after today's 6 p.m. news. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Jimmy. Yeah, we'll connect tomorrow, but enjoy your show, 6 to 7, coming up shortly.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, what do you make of the conversation I had with Wendy Isaac about apartheid and you know, adding on words about racism, etc., within apartheid being about race? What do you make of that fascinating conversation based on race? You can talk about the wind farms. We've just touched on the issue of education, matric results happening tomorrow. And by the way, talking about Wendy Isaac, she related to the imminent arrival of Francesca Albanese, the United Nations rapporteur to Palestine, coming to the country, I think, in the next day or two, in fact, and delivering the Nelson Mandela lecture on Saturday afternoon. Anything you want to pick up on that too? And any other developments we've had, including, of course, the Madlanga Commission, Patrice Motsepe ruling himself out as being the president of the African National Congress, or the country, not getting into politics whatsoever, but then certainly speaking up. Some names as well. You may want to pick up on all of that. Let's hear you out. And BEE, of course, that really interesting conversation we had about the DA pushing for a type of BEE that is not race-based, value-based, or needs-based. Maybe that's more accurate. You go for that or not?
Hello, Ashraf. Rian here from Pietermaritzburg. I completely agree with the DA's standpoint on BEE, and I'll include affirmative action. You cannot tell me that because you are black you cannot compete. Because you are black, you cannot. You don't have the self-worth as any other person. That's a fundamental flaw which I would be completely against.
Okay, that's one point. And I wonder who concurs. Or is there another way to do it? Is there something, is there scope to say transformation and the need for transformation is very much race-based? We know that because of the historical issues. But is there a need to say some of those issues, well, we've grown up and therefore needs to be on a needs base, and just strip the party political line, meaning that often we often talk about it and we say, well, who's saying it? So just ignore the DA for the moment. Just think about it yourself. Is there a need to go needs-based and not race-based when it comes to BEE. Sibu in Durban, hello.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yeah, how are you? You want to talk about burning campuses? Oh, no. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, there were three things that occurred to me over the weekend. The first is that I happened to be listening to, I had a long drive. I happened to be listening to Zola, of Zola 7 fame back in the day. And then there was also a story about the NPA doing anti-bullying programming in schools just because of the alarming levels of violence in schools. And then, of course, there was an article that was discussed this morning by Tula Sizwe with the author of the op-ed. It was about the significance of fire in the South African political context and relating to schools, relating to university campuses and the burning that we've seen in Fort Hare and UFS. My point here, my view is that, the fires are, of course, just one manifestation of violence as a form of protest in the South African situation. And the sad thing here is that we learned that we could get attention if we became violent, because otherwise we're unheard and unseen. And what this says, and this is the thing that I had just been reflecting on, listening to the anger and the frustration that's in Zola's music, and also that an expression of that frustration and thuggery, glorification of thuggery and stuff, that if we keep ignoring the youth, and if the youth keep feeling unheard and unseen, then we will continue to have these cycles of violence, not even cycles, just a continuation of this violence. But the other way to look at it is, how do we create spaces in which the youth are acknowledged, properly acknowledged?
And seen, I would think, isn't it? They
Sorry?
need to be seen. They need to be seen.
They need to be seen and heard, and to feel that they've been heard. And this, Ashraf, it just confirms to me, I was never a fan at all. I'm highly against the national dialogue. But you remember the young people that we had, you had some of them on your show, talking about how the national dialogue speaks above them, hasn't even consulted with them, and it's even the wrong way to go about trying to include people, and certainly trying to include the youth. But we really need to get serious and take this thing with the gravity that it deserves, to say, how do we make South Africans feel that they really can express themselves and feel part of the nation, and not just feel, like they're used when they are needed, but otherwise nobody cares. Nobody cares about them.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, Sibu, thanks for bringing it up. And you're right. No matter what the situation is, right, and I know that people protest and public protest because it's the quickest way to get attention, and therefore, and the media has to cover it, and therefore the currency of what they're saying grows. I mean, it happens all around the world, but do you need to get down to burning your institutions, which I think is the point that Sibu brought up, even at Fort Hare as well? I mean, there's been so many cases and then what? Then the cost of replacement is more than anything you ever dreamt of, and it puts you back completely. So thanks for that, putting it on the agenda. What else do you want to put on the agenda? Well, Shata, you want to talk about the DA. Go for it.
Afternoon, Ashraf. How are you?
I'm good indeed. Thank you.
I'm good, thank you. Ashraf, it's a disappointment that when the system seeks to address the injustices and the atrocities of the past, an organization like DA that claims to be working for everybody and standing for everybody is against such. I mean, if DA was honest to themselves about being for everybody and for all the skin colors and for all religions and whatever the case is, it would have taken a stand against white people still getting much more bigger salaries than their counterparts in the private sector. I mean, in many areas of work, especially in the private sector, you find white people using a khaki short pants as a qualification. Unqualified people throwing bigger salaries than qualified and well-educated black people. DA is mum. They're not saying anything about such things. They only looking at the systems whereby black people are benefiting as a result of the past injustices being addressed. It is very unfortunate. It shows what the DA stands for. DA stands for white interest, using colors and black votes to achieve the white interest.
But if that's the case, then what would, let's say, for example, the ANC stand for?
Come again?
What would then the ANC stand for? And I'm just using those two parties as the example, right? If the DA stands for white interest, what does the ANC stand for?
It has always been the case. I'm not an ANC fan. And I think the ANC has been very weak in addressing this kind of things. I'm not a fan. But it has always been known through the Freedom Charter of the ANC as an adopted policy that the ANC is not against any race, any religion. They talk about equality in all ways. So that's the ANC we know. Even if I'm not a supporter of the ANC, but that's the ANC we know.
Yeah, I hear that.
We're seeing a different thing from the DA.
Okay,
DA talks about something, but the way they act differently.
Okay.
I mean, I stay in Cape Town. I see what's happening here.
All right. Need to come there soon. Yeah. Okay. Can we move on? Point made. Thank you for that. You see, that's an interesting one. I mean, what the DA stands for and what the ANC also stands for in terms of policy. And then some may argue in terms of how does the ANC convert policy or translate it into action in the last 10, 15 years. So you may wonder then why. So one is policy, one is implementation of policy. Right. I need to hear more of your thoughts. Let me pick it up. And there's a lot of comment on BE. Yeah.
Good evening, Ashraf. I don't think there is a need for commissions, and I also, in support of the DA's idea of removing the black economic empowerment policy because it is discriminatory against blacks are discriminating whites, and whites in some form would be discriminated from the whole fracas. That's my view. Please let it be removed. What the DA is saying is true and honest.
Okay, well, therefore we're speaking to you. Thank you for that. Right, let's get to Cameron in Cape Town. Hi, Cameron.
Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Yeah,
I must declare up front I'm an ANC MP. I would like to challenge you, Ashraf, to invite Professor William Gumede.
Yeah.
You would recall that he went public to say the following in an attempt, in my view, to discredit broad-based black economic empowerment.
Yes.
And he said that 100 individuals linked to politically connected people have got access to 1 trillion rand. And despite being asked repeatedly on Twitter and elsewhere, he simply hasn't produced the evidence. I think there's been a concerted campaign pushed by people like him. You must remember he was a consultant to the DA and the Freedom Front and all of them, and now with the DA thing. So my request to SAFM and to you, Ashraf, is to invite Professor Gumede to tell the nation where is the evidence that 100 black people, so-called well-connected, have benefited from 1 trillion rand. I think he's lying, and he must, as a professor at a university, give evidence to that statement. That's my request.
Point made. In fact, I mean, that piece, I think it was in the Financial Times, and in terms of the earlier conversation we already had, yes, I think many people have discredited, and I certainly saw those tweets as well. So, point taken. Okay. Notes made, and yes, you're right. So is there a plan? Thanks for that, Cameron. Is there a plan outside of what the DA is saying? And I mean, they can say what they want. That's their job as a party. But to also, at the same time, parallel to that, drive it through forms of media to discredit BE as it is. But on the other hand, the flip side of that is BE as it stands, does it actually work for the vast majority of South Africans? Not for, okay, maybe not 100, but, can we, if it had worked that well, should we not be seeing something dramatically different? So you see, it's not a case of ANC is right, DA is wrong, or DA is right and ANC is wrong. Can there be something? Is the pot of honey somewhere in between all of that?
Ashraf, the Madlanga Commission, the parliamentary, whatever you call it. You just look at the Zondo Commission. At the end of the day, nobody's going to be held accountable. We all know that. Speeches here and there, while these people are trying to create a plan, a grand plan how they are getting out of this mess. We all know this. Nobody's gonna be held accountable.
So you're certain of that? I mean, there's
from Tata.
Thanks. You say nobody. I can tell you, there's already been casualties, if not even convictions. There's been casualties of people who've been named and they've had to shift sideways. There's already. Can you imagine us not doing anything about it? We've learned more about South Africa and policing, for example, in 3 months since July, in fact, than we probably heard in 10 years. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, Mr. Malam Wabek. The apartheid is still alive, really, and the colony is still alive, particularly South Africa, because those who have and those who don't have, the gap is getting bigger, really. Even education system, really. Different area, different school fee. Even university, there's black people they can't go because they don't have. I mean, the ANC, when they pay the salary for government, they run out of money. So it's a difference. Even the council, even electricity, the way they operate, different they respond. It's a big problem in South Africa. So apartheid is still alive, and South Africa is a long way to go, to be equal, whatever. Everybody must be same service everywhere, It's going to be tough, really.
Well, interesting, on the basis of a conversation I had earlier on about apartheid, not just in South Africa, in the world, there can be many examples how these divisions are based on race all around the world, and that is apartheid, yeah?
Afternoon, Ashraf, Chief Citizen in Polokwane. This is also a test for the current government to check whether they are serious in terms of fighting crime. Because if they are not going to suspend Sibia and replace him with General Mkhwanazi, it will be clear to all of us to say this government is actually glorifying criminal cartels instead of fighting them. Because the only way to get out of this situation is to put Sibia aside and replace him with Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Thank you very much.
I don't think that's the only solution. We tend to make it like because one person does one thing, then that's it. I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying, is that truly the only solution?
Hi there, Ashraf. The caller who said that the police are giving evidence at Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in camera because they fear the criminals. It's partly speaking the truth, but those police that are giving evidence in camera, they are not only fearful of the criminals, but they're also fearful of their colleague, because some of their colleagues are working with the criminals, so it will be easy for them to be identified and killed. Thanks, Mike and Musi.
Well, listen, if people are fearful, then we must respect that. And if they're still willing to testify, that's what they want. They want the evidence. They want people to testify. So if you don't see their faces, that's okay, don't you think? I'm fine with it.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I was just thinking how much middle class, black middle class we would have if in 1994 the development of black people was left to the white people to develop the black people without having programs that force that these things happen, that deliberately set out for these things to happen. I wonder how much black middle class we would have today.
Okay, but I'm not too sure whether you mean it'll be better, bigger, broader, or not. So you're asking a question, a good question. I'm not too sure what the end goal of all of that is, right? There's more. Hi, Ashraf, I fully support the BEE and the so-called race-based ANC laws. ANC must implement them for the next 100 years. Ashraf, we the black people and Africans in particular will not be told by so-called white South Africans and the DA, who overwhelmingly voted for apartheid laws, and the racist National Party and Verwoerd laws. So they must shut up or go back to Europe. Now, I don't know if you can say that, really. How is that going to advance any cause, really? Can't see that. That is divided. Like, why would you want to do that? And how will that be strong? And there's, Ashraf, can you please bring the GEPF and the unions to the SFM studio? We want to know what happened to the money that was taken from workers, because the unions don't say anything from Terence. Terence noted there. Right, here's another.
Hi, Ashraf. I'm listening to your guest talking about apartheid, and in particular about the Palestinian question. I mean, she's saying that it's race-based, and I beg to differ. I think it's based on religion, if you want to call it apartheid. I mean, if you had to take two people from that Middle Eastern area, an Israeli and a Palestinian, and you dress them the same, and would you be able to tell them apart as far as race is concerned? But you'd certainly be able to tell them apart from a religious base. So I don't know whether she's actually correct in calling it apartheid, if that's her definition of apartheid, is that it's race-based. Something to think about, eh?
Well, it
Thanks,
is.
Mike and Kabecha.
Thanks for that, Mike. Well, I mean, she was very clear it is race-based, but the point is for apartheid only. There can be other forms of discrimination. But the point is you can be race-based, but you can also, the same race-based can also be applied to religion-based, but you may not call it apartheid. And your point about, the people of Israel and Israelis or Jewish people, let's put it that way, or Palestinians, in terms of where they come from, they're very similar, you're right. But they do speak a different language. I mean, that's the point. They're very similar, but they do speak a different language. And maybe that separates them there. But so they may not, when we talk of race in South Africa, we think of complete color change. Just talking about that, I'm going to end with this. Now, we know we had the Cape Town Marathon at the weekend. We know it got cancelled, in fact, right? And there was a huge uproar. Even people like myself shared it. And interesting, I mean, Noel Crowley is not the only one who's saying so. He's saying Cape Town is a tale of two cities. With the Cape Town Marathon being cancelled, it was top headlines in the media, radio, TV, newspapers, and very little else. So at the same time, rather, there's a massacre in Philippi. I think about 7 people died, and it didn't make the top stories in many of the mainstream media, but it did make it in the Daily Voice, and therefore saying Cape Town is a tale of two cities. South Africa, a tale of two countries, maybe. Thanks for listening to the National Pulse. You know what? The heartbeat goes on. I'm going to feel you tomorrow. We'll connect again, once again, 3 to 6 tomorrow on the National Pulse. Thanks for listening. Here's Greg with the news at 6.
Thank you again, Ashraf. Matlaga Commission hears testimony over engineer's murder and Ebola observation period in place in the DRC. Good evening. The Matlaga Commission in Pretoria has heard how Warrant Officer Michael Tau was going to pay his way out of jail, escape or eliminate